Mawori Christine, the acting CEO of the Uganda Law Society. I'll go straight to welcome you all for this event. The President of the Uganda Law Society, Mr. Isaac Chimaze Semakade, the most perpendicular Vice President, Mr. Anthony Asimwe, the most perpendicular Treasurer, Mr. Isiko Arthur, and other council members online, our distinguished guests, Dr. Ndagire Florence, who is joining us online, Mr. Okwil Simon Peter, who is present here, Mr. Kabale Benon, who is present here, and Dennis Odwa, who is also present here, our members of Uganda Law Society present here and online, the staff of Uganda Law Society present here and online, and the media. You are welcome to join our 6th edition of the Radical New Bar Live weekly press and public engagement with the Radical New Bar, which is turning into our culture to engage the nation and the world at large on matters pertaining our mandate. In today's Radical New Bar Live, we set to discuss our issues at hand, and we have 3 issues today. We are going to talk about the plight of the PWDs while commemorating the World Social Justice Day. It's item number 3, but it will become item number 1 today. Then we shall also talk about Habeas Corpus. We shall give an update on that. And we shall also have an update on the ULS present persecution. Without wasting time, I take this honor to invite you all to this Rnblive. Also take this opportunity to welcome our treasurer to the podium to say something on the world social justice. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is Isiko Arthur. I'd like to welcome each and every member present physically, and also the lawyers that are virtually present online. Allow me send greetings from our president. As you all know, he's in Kigali, Rwanda, doing official business. But in the process of doing official business, we are coming up with the commemoration of the World Social Justice Day. The World Social Justice Day was first brought into effect in 2007. That is closely to around 16 years. As Uganda Law Society, we joined the world in commemorating the World Social Justice Day this year, 2025. We are doing so under the theme, empowering inclusion bridging gaps of social justice. And under this theme, we believe that we shall be able to foster the policies that will protect and address all the systematic inequalities in the world. As part of this commemoration, ULS is focusing on persons living with disabilities, the PWDs, highlighting the state of access to justice, mental health, challenges and opportunities for this community. Through this engagement, we seek to foster meaningful conversation on enhancing legal protection and addressing barriers to justice and advocating for an inclusive framework that upholds the rights and dignity of persons living with disabilities. In today's discussion, we shall feature the following prominent, distinguished individuals. Some will be live, then others will be physically present here with us to discuss some of these issues. We have Mr. Dennis Odwa. He's the Manager of Policy and Human Rights at the National Union of Disabled Persons of Uganda. He is physically present with us. We also have Dr. Florence Ndagire, a lawyer and a human rights advocate. She will be joining the discussion online. We shall be having an online discussion with her. We have Mr. Kabale Benon, a mental health advocate working with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. As Uganda Law Society, we are alive to the fact that there are a lot of injustices in wages and working conditions of employees, especially at the national level. And that is the reason as to why, one, as Uganda Law Society, as the entire members of Uganda Law Society, we came up with an idea. The idea of ensuring that we have a house that will house all the members of Uganda Law Society and the secretariat that is in charge of doing the day-to-day business of the society. Majority of the public and the members think that it is the council, the executive council, that does the day-to-day running of Uganda Law Society. The day-to-day running of the society is done by some unseen members, right from the CEO up to the driver. These people have ensured that the mission of Uganda Law Society is achieved. We normally have a banner that highlights the mission of Uganda Law Society to ensure that the lowest person in Uganda can access justice. And that is why, as council, in a bid to ensure that there are fair wages, to the members of the Secretariat. At the time we joined the society, I don't want to go into the specifics of the employment contracts of the various members of the Secretariat. But if you looked at the figures that the members, the Secretariat members, were getting, you could wonder. This is something that as council, we are going to look into to ensure that the members of the Secretariat are fairly remunerated. As we proceed, or as the matter unveils, we shall be communicating to the members of the society how we shall be taking such radical changes to ensure that the members of the Secretariat can perform their duties effectively under good working conditions, as earlier explained. At this juncture, allow me call upon Mr. Dennis Odwa to come and give us a discussion concerning the issue of the World Social Justice Day.
Before Mr. Dennis Odwa starts, we have a moderator who is going to moderate this item or this session, and his online is called Alan Kabale. Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Dennis, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. This is Kabale Alan, the moderator for today's engagement. We are blessed to have a number of speakers from different diversities, backgrounds, as they have already been introduced. We are going to have 4 speakers for today, and that is Dr. Ndagire Florence, Mr. Okwi Simon Peter, Kabale Benon, and Dennis Odwar. These people are going to be tackling different topics. Mr. Dennis Odwar is going to tackle the role of the judiciary in bridging gaps for access to justice and social inclusion for PWDs. And Dr. Ndagire Florence is going to lead us through the topic of the state of access to justice for persons with disabilities in Uganda, and she also present the challenges and opportunities. We are also going to have Kabale Benon. Kabale Benon is going to discuss the topic on mental health and access to justice for persons, for people with mental disabilities in Uganda. And lastly, we have Okwi Simon Peter, who's going to lead us on the general aspects of access to justice for persons living with albinism. We had agreed to follow the following order. Mr. Dennis Odu will forgive me. I don't know whether Ndagire is online.
I am here, Alan.
Ndagire,
I'm here.
Yes, we're going to begin with Dr. Ndagire. Dr. Ndagire is a person with visual impairment. She holds a bachelor's degree of laws from Makerere University. She has a master's in laws in international and European human rights from the University of Leeds. She's currently a doctor. She just graduated with a doctorate from Makerere University in social sciences. She has made quite a number of publications, and she's a distinguished disability advocate, and you can't wait to hear from you, Dr. Florence. Kindly take us through the state of access to justice for persons with disabilities in Uganda, and also you later on tell us the challenges and opportunities. You have 5 minutes, Dr. Ndagire. Thank you.
Oh, 5 minutes are not enough. Sorry, I was told 10. Okay, thank you very much for the warm welcome. Hansel and learned friend, Alan Kabale. Good afternoon, everyone, and it's a good morning for me here in the UK. I'm very delighted to speak to all of us today about the state of affairs of access to justice. Like I have been introduced, I am visually impaired. I have never seen light or darkness in my life. There are many persons with disabilities like me in Uganda who experience justice issues without accessing justice due to a number of reasons. For example, globally, we are over 1 billion people, or 16% of the world's population, and that's a significant number. And in Uganda, we are 13.6. So you cannot leave behind that number of persons with disabilities without accessing justice. This presentation today will highlight the progress on access to justice for persons with disabilities, the challenges and opportunities. So, someone who is sliding for me, we are going, I've finished slide 3, so slide 4. Yeah, so I'll talk about the progress now. Progress on access to justice. Uganda's access to justice is growing and becoming more inclusive. The key milestones include the Persons with Disabilities Act of 2020 that promotes access to justice. It has a particular section that promotes access to justice. It demystifies the previous laws, such as the Evidence Act, that did not allow people with visual impairment to be competent and compellable witnesses, and adds a section on that, and provides for sign language interpretation in the courts of law, and also ensure that the court information is in accessible formats of the court process. We also have the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities under Article 13. That oblige states to promote inclusive access to justice by ensuring the provision of age-related accommodations to persons with disabilities, enabling them to effectively access the justice system without discrimination. The joint statement by the Uganda Human Rights Commission and the Judiciary reaffirms a commitment for persons with disabilities to access inclusive justice, enabling laws and policies. Uganda has made significant progress in enacting enabling laws to promote access to justice. These include the Persons with Disabilities Act, Judicial Strategic Planning Guidelines that incorporate inclusive justice principles, the Uganda Human Rights Commission guidelines on access to justice. They really also have guidelines on access to justice that also provide for procedures for complaints, and they recognize the plight of persons with disabilities. The courts have also adjudicated cases involving persons with disabilities, including the Center for Health, Human Rights for Development, and Igavas Daniel versus Attorney General, which created precedent and locus on issues affecting persons with disabilities. So this was a constitutional interpretation that interpreted words such as unsound mind to be derogatory and abusive, and it's one of the precedents. Many other cases have been ongoing, such as the Shoborozi case by Justice Chibatema, and the testimony Rosemary versus Uganda. So those are many other cases that have brought on board people with disabilities and their issues being adjudicated by court. The appointment of a person with a disability to the judiciary is celebrated as this is the way to inclusion. So we have a magistrate with visual impairment, His Worship, Atono, who has been appointed to the judiciary. So we celebrate that as one of the milestones for inclusion. Slide 5. So we'll talk about the challenges. Despite the appointment of a judicial officer with a disability and the progress made in reforming laws to be inclusive, challenges remain. Stigmatizing court language remains on law books, perpetuating discrimination. So we still have in the Penal Code Act persons of unsound minds, idiots, which is really stigmatizing. And if you go to make a statement and then you say, I'm an adult of 35 years of sound mind, and then I have a psychosocial disability, it means if I present myself as one with a psychosocial disability, then you will say that I'm not of sound mind. There are also words such as lunatics in the Criminal Procedure Code and a Magistrate Court Act and the Trial of Indictment Act, they still remain there, and we really say that these are stigmatizing words that perpetuate discrimination. Expensive court process. Many persons with disabilities remain the poorest of the poor and cannot afford to access the court system. So for us, we have to pay court fees, and then we have to pay a counsel or a lawyer to support us in either defending the case. So many persons with disabilities cannot afford that, and yet also justice takes a bit longer to be achieved. Limited awareness of the rights and needs of persons with disabilities by the justice officials. Many of our officials are not aware of our rights and needs. That's why you find that during the court process, I am required to pay for my sign language interpreter if I am a person with hearing impairment. I'm not given quotes in Braille, even the oath to swear, I cannot read it, people just read it for me, which also limits my participation as a person with a disability and limits many of our participation. Delayed justice, cases remain on cause lists without being judged or resolved, yet justice delayed is justice denied. Inaccessible court processes for persons with hearing impairments. The court processes is not adapted to persons with hearing impairments. There are no sign language interpreters to support people with hearing impairments. So this is really a big challenge. Lack of access to court documents. The court documents are not accessible in Braille, making it difficult for persons with visual impairment to access. It may not only be in Braille, but generally court information is inaccessible. For example, people with psychosocial disabilities and intellectual cannot read very wordy documents. They want simple language, they want symbols and pictures, and these documents have not been made in such a way. Some of us may want to access them in Braille, while others will want them in audio format, others will want them in large print, and all this has not been provided for. The court buildings are not accessible to persons with disabilities. For example, the commercial court in Kampala, one of us had a client, Mr. Emmanuel Chanja, and then he's a wheelchair user, and if there are no lifts, then it really becomes a barrier. I want to say that these challenges are not caused by us. The challenges are there because society has refused to adjust. So if you are conducting a session like this and you don't provide for sign language interpretation, and I am a person with hearing impairment, then you are the problem, you are the barrier, not me. So these indeed are really barriers that hinder our effective access to justice and participation in the administration of justice. All has not been lost. We have opportunities to change and reform to promote inclusion.
Doctor, kindly try to summarize. Yeah,
I'm
right out of
about
time,
to finish.
Doctor.
I'm left with like 2 slides and I'll be done. And this is very important. That's why you called me. So, and also my disability will not allow me to present in 5 minutes. So accommodation starts from you, Mr. Kavale. And respect senior counsel as they present.
I understand.
Yes, so we are talking about opportunities. Recruiting qualified persons with disabilities in the justice system will change the narrative and promote inclusion. Adjudicating court cases in favor of persons with disabilities to improve on the precedents on disability inclusion. So we need more adjudication of those cases. Providing information of the court process in accessible format will help a lot promote inclusion. Recruiting sign language interpreters in all court premises to enable the effective participation of persons with hearing impairments. Availing age-related accommodations to those who need it. Amending laws to remove stigmatizing language, empowering persons with disabilities through advocacy and awareness initiatives, enhancing accessibility to physical infrastructure and information, enhancing awareness and training for justice officials to understand the rights of persons with disabilities. So in conclusion, there is a recognition of the need for reform and a willingness to create a just society where persons with disabilities can effectively participate. Reforming laws and policies to promote inclusivity and accessibility can have a transformative impact on the lives of persons with disabilities. Ensuring that court buildings, communications are accessible to persons with disabilities, providing reasonable accommodation to persons with disabilities, to ensure equal participation, training justice officials on the rights of persons with disabilities, reviewing and revising laws and policies to eliminate discriminatory language and practices. By working together, we can create a more just society where persons with disabilities can participate fully. I thank you for listening to me.
Wow. Thank you so much, Doctor. We really appreciate your able submissions. For the benefit of those ones who don't know Dr. Ndagire Florence, as I said earlier on, she's a lady living with a visual impairment. She's completely blind. You may wonder the effectiveness and efficiency in her reading. She's able to do that because of the reasonable accommodation. One key aspect of inclusion for people with disabilities is reasonable accommodation to address the different limitations they encounter because of their disabilities. We have different disabilities. The moderator today is a person with physical disability. I move on to crutches. We thank the US for giving us the opportunity. Allow me to welcome the next speaker, Mr. Okwi Simon Peter. Okwi Simon Peter is someone living with albinism. He's a lawyer by profession. Is an inclusive disability advocate and the movement, and as far as advocacy and policy influence is concerned. Okwi recently coordinated the implementation of an inclusive employment project for persons with disabilities with Down syndrome and other intellectual disabilities in Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, and Nigeria. Okwi is currently pursuing his master's degree in disability studies and inclusive development from Chambogo University. Yes, Mr. Okwi, kindly take us through the general aspects of access to justice for persons living with albinism in Uganda. The floor is yours.
So thank you, Alan, and good afternoon to everyone. Yes, I'll take you through albinism. So before the thing going into what Alan, my colleague and classmate, has asked me to do, I will define, so that we all understand what we are talking about and who is before you. I'll define what albinism is. And according to the United Nations, albinism is a rare, non-contagious condition that appears when someone lacks melanin, which is a genetic condition, melanin, which gives color to your skin. And so for us with albinism, we do not have the melanin in our skin, in our eyes, and in our hair. Albinism has to be genetic in that both parents, both the mother and father, should have the genes that will result to me or to another person having the condition of albinism. Albinism, basically, is in human beings, people like me, is in animals, if you didn't know. It's also in plants. And it's in all races, including Europeans, Asians, and Africans all have persons with albinisms. Yesterday, as I was trying to go through this topic, I was very excited to know that for you who love football, that even Kevin De Bruyne is a person with albinism, which was very exciting to me. In the world, I will give you statistics that in over 17,000 people, 1 in 17 persons in the world have at least albinism. And when you come to sub-Saharan Africa, 1 in 5,000 persons have at least albinism. In Uganda here, just last year as we conducted our census, according to the UBOS report, at least in the country, I was relieved to know that there are over 78,800 something persons in Uganda that live with albinism. So if you're interested in politics, that's a good vote for you. And I will, I think, rush to the gist of the matter and say that for us persons with albinism to access justice, we need to engage organizations, network with other groups of people who are agitating for the respect and promotion of fundamental human rights in the country, so that we shall be able to team up, build synergies to ensure that we advocate for the rights of persons with albinism. In that way, we shall be able to at least agitate and ensure that there is justice for the rights of persons with albinism. And then also, as persons with albinism, we need to utilize the existing legal frameworks and policies that specifically appeal to the conditions and issues of persons with albinism. I can give you for a fact, we have the United Nations Convention on the rights of persons with albinism, on the rights of persons with disability, that talks a lot generally regarding persons with albinism, disability, where we persons with albinism fall under. We have the 1995 Constitution with Article 21, Equality and Non-Discrimination, Article 35 on disability and marginalized groups under Article 35. So we can benefit from such legislation to try to advance and agitate for the rights of persons with albinism so that they can have the right to access to justice. Also, the other one would be, to me, I think judicial activism is very, very key in the country to ensure that we people with albinism get access to justice. I was in Makerere University Law School, and from first year to third year, even during constitutional law classes, nothing or little or nothing was said about persons with disability, including in constitutional law. And so that's, to me, even in LDC, while I was there, I think it was in civil, where at least towards the end, there was something on mental health, but there was nothing or little talked about persons with disability. And that, to me, was a little bothering, because I thought at least there would be some aspect in my training as a lawyer, right from law school, that something about people with a disability would be talked about. Because in my training right now, in my Masters of Disability Studies and Inclusive Development, a certain scholar called Leonard J. Davis says that albinism is a broad and a porous discipline, in that entry is so easy, everyone can become disabled at any time, but exit is extremely impossible. And so I feel like in the training, we should train lawyers and other practitioners to have at least be disability sensitive, so that when they are appointed in the judiciary, at least they will be able to adjudicate for issues relating to persons with disability, and let alone persons with albinism. I also think creating awareness is very, very key to ensure that we persons with albinism are able to access to justice. Now, awareness is twofold for me, in that out there, many people are not aware about albinism and what causes the disability called albinism. So there are many myths that we need to break through, creating awareness, but also we need to empower and create awareness within the community of persons with albinism, they themselves, because many of them are not aware of their condition, and also they are not aware of how they can agitate for their own rights. So creating self-awareness within we persons with albinism, and also ensuring that the community there is sensitized to know how they can handle and respond to issues relating to persons with albinism, will enable we people with albinism in the country to be able to agitate for our fundamental human rights. And then the other would be pressurizing the government to ensure that they implement the laws and policies to ensure that people with albinism are able to benefit and enjoy their fundamental human rights in the country. I think it's another platform where we can bang the tables to ensure that the country then is able to implement and even amend and abolish all derogatory laws and policies that hinder we people with albinism from enjoying our fundamental human rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okwi. Thank you for your well-researched presentation. Once again, I want to get out of thanking Uganda Law Society for thinking about for disabilities. I think that's one of the kind. Kudos to the President and the Cabinet. We thank you so much. Okwi raises pertinent issues which needs the attention of policymakers and judicial officers, especially when it comes to lack of representation in key positions in the judicial system. For example, appointment of people with disabilities that would increase awareness, but also inclusion. Since we have limited time, allow me to go to the next presenter or speaker, and that is Mr. Kabale Benon. Mr. Kabale Benon, are you able to hear me? Mr. Benon?
Yes, hello, Mr. Alan. I can hear you.
Yes,
you are loud and clear.
Yes, Kabale Benon is a person who is an expert in mental health issues. He comes with us with lived experience on mental health care reform and management. He's a human rights activist, and currently Benon leads the Mental Health Recovery Initiative. He also works with the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine as a trainer and advisor, as well as a consultant. He studied from Makerere University and has a human rights diploma from Law Development Center. Benon is going to share with us on the topic of mental health and access to justice for people living with mental health disabilities in Uganda. Mr. Benon, you are welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alan, the moderator. Good morning, everyone. It's a good afternoon. Wow, good afternoon, everyone. As the moderator has introduced me, my name is Kabale Benon. I'm a person with a lived experience of mental illness or psychosocial disability. And I would love to say that this is something that inspires me to speak about, unlike other people that suffer the disability. To start with, before I can really go in depth with my presentation, I would like to ask a question. What do you think about mental illness, or how do you understand mental disability? Just a few answers, maybe one or two persons to give me an answer. I think this is something that is not new to us, and we all have a perspective about mental disability or mental illness. Yes, any volunteer? Yes. Sorry? They lose their sanity. Okay, thank you very much. Another person? So I would like to say, yes, you have you are not attempting. Okay, thank you very much. So I would like to say that we are part and parcel of mental health, and every one of us has mental health. However, at a certain point, someone can be diagnosed with a mental illness, and these are two distinct, terms mental health and mental illness are totally different, if you are to define. So to present about mental disability, I would like first of all to define health by saying that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. From this definition, it is clear that mental health is an important aspect in defining the entire health of a person. I would like to say that the mere fact that you have a brain, mental health is part and parcel of every one of us. So mental health refers to the balance between all aspects of life: social, physical, spiritual, and emotional. When you go to research, according to World Health Organization data, at least 7.4% of Ugandans are affected by common mental disorders, particularly depression, anxiety, and alcohol and substance use disorders. Uganda ranks among the 6 countries in Africa with the highest number of people with mental illness. That's according to research. And if you are to remember, in the past year, I think it was 2023, there was an article in the New Vision stating that 14 million Ugandans suffer mental health challenges. So this is not far away from the statistics of World Health Organization. When I'm to discuss about access to justice, you will find that UN experts on torture reviewed Uganda in 2016 and were alarmed at cases of torture and cruel and inhuman treatment against persons with disabilities in psychiatric hospitals, abuses by witch doctors, family members, and police officers against persons with mental issues. From my lived experience, I would like to state that I've suffered human rights abuses and violations, both in hospitals, like in Butabika Hospital, as secluded for unreasonably long hours without any supervision. And this did not happen to only me, but even many other patients who are admitted and are presumed to be aggressive or violent on the ward. They are secluded. And before you are secluded, you are stripped off of your clothes and you are placed in it is in quotes called a cold room, where they restrict your movement and you are closed in there. If you are so unfortunate, like in my experience, there is little or no supervision or medical intervention during the time you are in seclusion. So this is a form of torture, inhuman, cruel, and degrading treatment. And for those of you who have a copy of my presentation, I've cited the case of Benon Kabale and Sehad Vath as Attorney General of Uganda, challenging the use and standard of seclusion in the Butabika Hospital and psychiatric units in Uganda, Civil Appeal number 155 of 2018. You find that before this case was dismissed at the High Court, the land judge quoted that he could not believe the testimony of someone who suffered a mental health crisis, and during the time of admission, they could not recall what transpired or what happened to them. It was so unfortunate that the land judge could not really, dispense the justice that we sought in the High Court. So it is imperative to note that there are a number of barriers to accessing justice for people with mental disabilities, including a general lack of accessibility, a failure to provide procedural and reasonable accommodations as required by Article 13 of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. There are specific problems that arise, when you are litigating matters concerning persons with mental disabilities, as I've gone ahead to specify that these problems include court fees, the use of discriminatory and inappropriate language in the court processes, lengthy trials, the minister's order. I think this is something that lawyers are well versed with. If someone is, if someone commits a crime or is suspected and goes before court, maybe before a magistrate, they are sent on remand, and you find that many people with mental health problems are in limbo in Luzira and other prisons. Their cases have not been heard conclusively simply because they await minister's order, which I strongly believe this is, a matter that contravenes with the independence of the judiciary, where the minister has to decide whether this person has to be sent to a mental health institution or be sent to prison or be set free. This is something that is a very strong barrier when it comes to access to justice for persons with mental disabilities.
Mr. Benon, as you conclude.
Just 2 minutes, I will be concluding. So there is stigma and stereotype, and you read the judgment of a case of Daniel Riga and Sehad versus Attorney General challenging the use of derogatory terms in Trial and Indictment Act and Magistrates Act Constitutional Petition 64 of 2011. You find that people with mental health problems are adjudged. Even before you go before a judge or a magistrate, you are adjudged as a criminal lunatic. And this is maintained within our laws. You already declared a criminal even before, before you appear before a court of law. So this is a very big barrier. Frequently, people with mental disabilities are victims of human rights violations, including sexual exploitation, are perceived as easy targets, and are less likely to have their complaints investigated by police. It is likely that many such cases never reach the courts for reasons such as crimes against people with mental disabilities are less likely to be reported. People with mental disabilities fear of backlash from perpetrators, especially those who are family members and relatives, if they file a complaint. There's violence, restriction, and coercive practices against people with mental disabilities, and they are viewed as a norm in our community. So communities and service providers cover up the crimes, most often attempting to protect the victims with mental disabilities. The rules of court must respect the principles of equality and non-discrimination. This means that rules should ensure that people with mental disabilities enjoy substantive equality and not just formal equality in relation to access to courts and participation in court processes. As I wind up, this requires recognition that people with mental disabilities have the same and equal rights as people without disabilities, and the Ugandan government must take positive actions or measures to remove barriers and provide for necessary adjustments needed by people with mental disabilities to access courts and to fully participate in court processes. The Ugandan Constitution guarantees equality before and under the law in all spheres and respect of life and equal protection of the law. For those who have my presentation, I've gone ahead to indicate there are some published articles that you can read at a later time, just to acquaint yourself with the situation of, mental disability and access to justice in Uganda. There are papers that I authored, and they're available at Springer Nature. Thank you very much. Be blessed.
Thank you, Benon. Thank you so much. Yes, Benon has presented issues to do with people faced with mental disabilities and the challenges they do face, and the possible strategies or remedies that can be adopted by different key stakeholders to ensure inclusion, but also to ensure access to justice. It was intentional to make Mr. Odur Dennis to be the last presenter, because Odur comes from Nodipu, which is National Union of Disabled Persons in Uganda, an umbrella organization working on rights of persons with disabilities. NUDIPO has played a key role in policy formulation and influence in Uganda. So Mr. Dennis comes with a rich experience in policy management and human rights. He has a Master of Arts in Human Rights and also is working with NUDIPO as the manager policy and human rights. Mr. Dennis, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly,
Dennis?
Alan.
Yes, Mr. Dennis, kindly take us through the role of the judiciary in bringing gaps for access to justice and social inclusion for people with disabilities, taking into consideration the different issues that have been presented by the various speakers. That's why I intentionally made you last, because you are going to sum up, but also give us a way forward. After Mr. Dennis's presentation, we shall have 10 minutes of questions and feedback, then we shall call it a day. Thank you so much. Dennis, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alan. You have already introduced me. I'm Dennis Odwar. I work with the National Union of Disabled Persons of Uganda, NUDIPO, in the capacity of the Manager for Policy and Rights. I want to first of all appreciate Uganda Law Society for inviting me to be part of this discussion. And before I go into the roles of judiciary in all this, I would like to recognize the contribution and discussion by my friends. And I want to take it that judiciary is one of the arm of government, which is very critical as far as ensuring justice in this country, which is fully enshrined under Article 126 of the 1995 Constitution of Uganda as amended. And also under the same Article 126, Clause 2, and specifically Part A and B, it provides that judiciary will be executing justice to all categories of people, irrespective of their standings, socially and also economically. And also it provides that there should be no delay in executing justice. Not also forgetting Article 28, Clause 1, which provides for entitlement to fair and speedy trial before any court of competent jurisdiction. And putting aside all this, it is important also to note that persons with disabilities can either commit crime or even accuse for committing crime, and they have also issues that they need to pursue for justice to be done. According to World Health Organization, they estimate persons with disabilities to be approximately 1 billion people in the world, and in Uganda, UBOS put the statistics to about 1.4 million people. So this is a big number of people who needs actually justice. And I would like to go to the areas that the justice institutions should focus attention on to ensure that persons with disabilities in pursuing their issues and also to get justice in the cases or proceedings should actually entail. I want to put clearly that there's always delays in investigating the cases reported by and also charges against persons with disabilities. And why are these delays? My colleague, Dr. Ndagire Florence, has mentioned some of them. For instance, we have cases that appear before institutions of justice, but we lack other reasonable accommodation needs. For example, like the sign language interpreters. Very few institutions do employ sign language interpreters. And these people are not standby in court. We have received very many calls at Nudipo to support in identifying a sign language interpreter to ensure that a case that involves a person with hearing impairment can move on. And of course, court cannot proceed if there is no sign language interpreters. And I say that for justice to be done in this respect, the institutions of justice should deliberately make it possible for sign language interpreters to be available at all time, so that whenever there is any case that involves a person with disability, specifically those with hearing impairment, there is no delay in executing justice. Because this happens even at the time of investigation. By the time a person with disability or a person with hearing impairment reports a case in police, even investigation itself will take a lot of time. Because even at the community level, the CIDs do not know how to communicate with this person with hearing impairment. They will look for somewhere. Maybe in the whole village, there's no one who can sign. And it delays justice. And my colleague Florence really said, justice delayed is justice denied. Now, this both affects in terms of prosecution and also investigation, which actually needs to be improved, and our justice institutions should deliberately make sure that these reasonable accommodation needs are provided for. I would also like to talk about the issues to do with accessibility of premises for justice institutions. And this is yet another very serious challenge that persons with disabilities are facing. And this can be even at the time of investigations in the police. You find that a person with disability cannot even have access to the outpost or the police post. They have not created the ramps where a person on wheelchair can move to the counter and report a case. Many of our police outposts and police stations do not have the accessibility requirements. And even those who will reach the counter, we have little people, persons with short stature. And always for those who have visited the police, you find the counters are so high. And these people, putting into consideration their disability, their unique disability, they cannot even stand at the counter to record a statement because they are people of short stature. And you find this is a continuous thing. And you know, in order for criminal justice system to flow, it has to start even from the time of investigation. How long do you take to investigate? How is your investigation fair enough for persons with disabilities? So there's need to create accessibility by building ramps in all the justice institutions, ensuring that there are rails that can support a person with physical disability to move, and also other facilities that should be inclusive in the institutions that provide justice for all, including persons with disabilities. I also want to bring into perspective the issue of failure to follow up on cases by persons with disabilities. My colleague Florence talked about this. Persons with disabilities, by majority, they do not have the financial base. And all of us know that there is high cost when you begin to follow justice in this country. And you find that a person with disability cannot facilitate the process because they are poor. And secondly, also, they cannot hire a lawyer of their choices because you don't have the money to pay. And this remains a challenge. There is need for people who are core in ensuring that justice is given to all, including persons with disabilities, to think about pro bono services that should be given to persons with disabilities. Lawyers who are doing practice should deliberately make effort to follow up with persons with disabilities who are stuck with their cases and they cannot pay for it, they cannot hire a private advocate to stand for them in the court of law. So this is something that needs actually to be deliberately worked upon by justice institutions and lawyers who are working days and nights to ensure that justice is done. I want to... Yes, Alan, I'm not going to take long. I have some few minutes and I will be done. We conducted as NUDIPO a situational analysis on the living conditions of inmates with disabilities in Uganda last year in 2024. And we visited many of the prisons, including Luzira, Chitalia, and others. And what we have realized is that persons with disabilities are there. Some of them, they don't know what next, even in their cases. Because being there, incarcerated there, they don't have the money. Even maybe the relatives cannot pay for them a lawyer who can follow up on their cases. And someone will tell you, I'm here, but I don't know what next. I've been here for long. I don't have the money to pay for my private advocate to follow up on my case. And this shows actually that there's a very big problem that persons with disabilities who are undergoing criminal justice processes are facing. Leave alone that, even the accessibility itself.
Maybe some insight.
I'm just summarizing in 1 minute, Alan. Inside there, they have problems of accessing the facilities. It is a very serious problem. You can imagine a person in a wheelchair cannot navigate within the prison. A person who is blind cannot be given a helper to go with in Luzira. But then you have to navigate inside there. It is a big challenge. And what we are saying is that we need to deliberately come out with the ways as institutions that provide justice to ensure that we are all inclusive, that we care and value justice processes when it is involving persons with disabilities in this country. Thank you very much.
Mr. Benon, before you leave the floor, Mr. Benon. Hello? Benon?
I can hear you.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Yes, Mr. Benon.
Yes.
I was saying that we appreciate your submissions, and actually you brought out your issues. So I wanted to emphasize on specifically, according to you as Rodipu or as key stockholders, what are your expectations from the judiciary? Because you have also added on our quite a number of challenges that people with disabilities do face in accessing justice. But I just wanted you to expound on the roles judicial officers or judiciary should play in order to increase access to justice by persons with disabilities?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Alan. I think it's very important within the judicial system to ensure that there is a law reform. For example, if we have studied the Magistrates Act and the Trial and Indictment Act, where you find that in these laws they maintain the use of derogatory terms. For example, people of unsound mind, imbeciles, idiots. This is maintained within the law. And when you cite of, a person who is declared a criminal lunatic even before he appears before court, I think this is something that needs to be done. There is need for reforms to ensure that there is amendment in the laws to conform with international standards, to ensure that there is access to justice for people with disabilities in Uganda. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Benon. As I'm going to open the floor to the participants, Benon has talked about the issue of failure to follow up cases because of finances. Just on Tuesday, I was able to get for someone bail. Is a person with this physical disability, and he has been on remand for over 6 months, beyond even the mandatory period. His case has not been followed up by anyone until someone reported to me that there is someone with disabilities in Masaka. He has been in prison and hopeless. When I intervened, the person was able to get bail. And this person even could not facilitate me, so we did completely pro bono service. So I call upon members of Uganda Law Society to always reach out to do pro bono, but also to lead in the fight for inclusion. During President Gimara's time, I requested him to even create space for a representative on Uganda Law Society for People with Disabilities. We have a saying among disability movement that nothing for us without us. If you sit on those round tables and discuss issues, and you don't have someone to represent us at Uganda Law Society, in the judiciary, in the Judicial Service Commission, we shall be left behind and also shall have limited access to justice. This time round, I call upon some questions because we are going into the next program to react on the different presenters, and we conclude. Around the 5 questions, we shall be done. 5. So someone can help me in choosing because I'm not able to see people who are raising up their hands.
Thank you, Kalale.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions in the room for the presenters? Okay, I'll take it that the presentations have made sense. I don't know if you have any online. But maybe as the questions come through and as we wait for any other comments on these insightful submissions and the thoughts and well-researched information you've shared with us. On behalf of the Uganda Law Society, the Council and the membership generally, I'll maybe say a few things concerning what the calls you've made through your presentations, especially to the Uganda Law Society. One is to give you comfort and satisfaction, all the members, the PWDs, that you've come to the right place. As the Uganda Law Society, we have a statutory mandate. That's the beginning point. Our statutory mandate is in the Uganda Law Society Act. Section 3D, for instance, gives us the mandate to protect and assist the public in Uganda in all matters touching, auxiliary, and or incidental to the law. Now, we had you talk about reforms. in laws. Some of the laws that are in place, and they are not favorable for PWDs. And we know there are processes that the steps that are taken before these laws are passed. And there are also advocacy measures to ensure that we have laws and policies that favor every Ugandan or every person, regardless of their status, their age, and including the PWDs. So it's our mandate, a starter mandate, which falls squarely within our power to take on. And one thing we can assure is that as the Radical New Bar, we are really interested in pushing for these policies that are favorable, that are for, as long as we are promoting the people's and human rights. We also have a role to assist the government, that is Section 3E, to assist the government and the court in all matters affecting legislation and the administration and practice of law in Uganda. Most of your concerns, some of them, the presenters, are to do with access to justice through courts, how you're treated in courts, how some words are used in court, which bring in some kind of inequality or, and discrimination, or some of the procedures that do not favor persons with disabilities. So through those mandates that the statutory mandate, we as the Radical New Bar are willing and have already taken up the mantle. I like the word Okwi used. Okwi, by the way, was one of my most, of the brightest students I had at some point, and I'm happy to see you here today, and I must say I'm proud of you. He talked of banging tables, that we should bang tables to have some of these reforms. And the fact that they fall square within our mandate, we are really willing and able to do that. Now, when it comes to access to justice in form of legal representation, I'm also proud and happy and excited to inform you and let you know that at the Uganda Law Society, we run the Legal Aid Project. This is something we take very serious. And through our Legal Aid Project, we have over 22 clinics across the country. In every region, we have in the West Nile, in the Western, Northern region, the Central, the Eastern. We have these clinics where we offer free legal services to the indigent, the marginalized, and the vulnerable. Of course, now we are looking at this vulnerable group, the vulnerability that the PWDs possess. Definitely qualify them to get our services. The only thing I do call upon you is to be intentional, and we ensure that we have some kind of collaboration where your members or these members are able to access or get our services, because I'm sure there are some of these, you mentioned figures, some of them are not aware of these offices, some of them are not aware of these services. On top of the legal aid clinics we have across the country, we also have advocates across the country who offer pro bono services for these kinds of people. And it's a call that you've made, and I believe that if we have proper collaboration and intentional approaches and collaboration, we can make this work. We can do, of course, it doesn't go without saying that we have deficiencies, because our legal aid project is strictly donor funded, and some of the clinics work depending on the availability of funds from the donors, but we've ensured and we've made it a priority through the Radical New Bar to ensure that we remain open through the legal aid offices. Our legal aid offices remain open and serving people like the PWDs and other vulnerable communities. Now, we are really available to partner with you and offer the support we can in all those various forms. And do not hesitate to always reach out. Please let your members, let the PWDs have information about the services we offer, services they can benefit from. And if it comes to these intentional policies where you need us to influence, we are also available as the Uganda Law Society, because it's our mandate, and we are really intentional in promoting the rule of law and human rights for everyone. Thank you very much. I'll call upon Goretti to come and give a word of thanks to our presenters before we move on to another session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chairperson. Mary Gori Chinakame is my name, the spokesperson of the Back on Track think tank, and I'm also the managing partner, Military Advocates, and also the CEO of ValidWills.net. I have been asked to give a vote of thanks on behalf of the Radical New Bar. I would like to thank and extend our heartfelt gratitude to Nudipu and the PWD representative for their thoughtful remarks today as we commemorate World Social Justice Day. That is Dr. Ndagire Florence, Senior Counsel. We have Mr. Akwi Simon Peter, Mr. Kabale Benon, Mr. Dennis Odul, and the moderator Alan Kabale. Your contributions have enriched our understanding of social justice and its significance in our society. We appreciate your dedication to promoting inclusivity, equality, and human rights. Your participation has made this event a resounding success, and we are grateful for your collaboration. Thank you once again for your insightful remarks and being part of this important celebration. We look forward to continued collaboration and collective efforts towards achieving social justice for all. Thank you so much.
I now take this opportunity to invite my colleague and OG and classmate, Advocate Lillian, to come and take the podium to speak to us on item number 2, which is on Habeas Corpus. Lillian, you're welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very humbled to be here in your presence. I'm very humbled that I've been given this opportunity to come and talk to our members, those that are present here and those that are online, in respect of the habeas corpus application that happened yesterday at Civil Division. I believe we also heard what happened in court yesterday when this application came up. And there were various emotions that were set up as a result of this application. And as a group, we decided to issue a statement. And I am here to read to you, the members on here and the members online, the statement that we issued as a group called the Rule of Law Defense. The title of our statement is The Shocking Conduct of Dr. Kizza Besigye's Application for Freedom. The judiciary's conduct of Dr. Kizza Besigye's application for freedom has been shocking and unbelievable. First, we were told that the application could be heard next week on the 25th of February 2025. Fortunately, it was suddenly rescheduled to the 9th to the 19th of February, which was yesterday. Then, on hearing the presiding judge observed that Besigye looked unwell and should be immediately returned to prison, lest he faint in court. Was the court not concerned that Besigye could suffer much worse in prison than merely fainting, given his visibility frail condition? Why was Dr. Besigye's right to health not prioritized with an order of immediate medical attention? Where is the compassion in the judiciary when fundamental rights such as life, health, and liberty are at stake? We are reminded of Kakwenza Rukirabasaija, who was denied the return of his passport when he sought to get specialized medical attention for his tortured and mangled body abroad. We remember too painfully the death of our own senior counsel, Bob Kasango, and others who died in prison under similar circumstances. We also remember the death in November 2007 of Joseph Musasi Zichifefe, a brother to Dr. Kiza Besigye, who died shortly after he was released from prison. More recently, we also remember the death of Honorable Segrinya Mohammed, and I believe there are many people out there who have died, only that their voices were not heard. So it's not only these people who have suffered, but there are many others who have also suffered, only that we haven't heard their voices. So I believe they are the silent witnesses that have gone unnoticed. The courts, with few exceptions, are increasingly using the denial of bail as a political persecution. From the automatic remand when an accused person takes plea on the pretext that either the court or the
Recording in
prosecution,
progress.
The courts, with few exceptions, are increasingly using denial of bail as political persecution. From the automatic remand when an accused person takes plea on the pretext that either the court or the prosecution need time to study the accused papers, or even as whimsical as the court being in a hurry to get home, to delayed bail, hearings and rulings, and most times unjustified adjournments. A citizen's liberty is at stake, and the resolution of the fundamental constitutional principle is paramount. The judiciary must always remember that delayed justice is justice denied. The judiciary should demonstrate greater urgency in the determination of such matters, especially in the situation of Kiza Besigye. We cannot be a people who learn nothing from our own dark, grim, bloody history. We are all one people, all children of God, and we must always honor our humanity in love and service for one another. We refrain out of respect for the court from commenting on matters still to be decided. The signatories to this statement are Peter Munkidiwaluviri, Ivan Bowe, Stephen Kalali, I myself, Lillian Drabo, Prima Kwagala, Mike Okua, Peter Arinaitwe, Ronald Samuel Wanda, Mary Goreti Nakamia, Edward Katose Kawanja, Bernard Banturaki, George Musisi, Sarah Kasande, Anthony Odor, Morgan Mohindo, Michael Aboneka, Paul Muchibi, William Muhumza, Julius Galinsonga, Julius K. Warugaba, Dennis Kusasira, and Philip Karugaba. I thank you for listening to me.
We now invite questions from media and members here and online. Thank you.
I've been advised to try and simplify using a different language, and we shall take Luganda for the benefit of those. Council, thank you very much. Ngenda gezaako okunyonyola munnamateeka Lilian statement gyayegedde oba kyanyonyodde wano ekikwatagana ne engeri kooti gye yakuttemu okusaba kwa Dr. Besigye mu kooti ogezaako okufuna freedom ye oba okuva mu mukomera. Nti era engeri kooti gye yakuttemu bano bannamateeka banga bamemba wa Uganda Law Society bagamba nti engeri kooti gye yakuttemu ensonga za Besigye ogezaako okufuna freedom ye oba okuva mu mukomera yennyamiza nnyo era ekanga lwa nsonga nti engeri gy'ebize oba kooti gye yagikuttemu si yeddala embeera oba engeri entuufu. Okusookera ddala basooka tugamba nti omusango guno oba okusaba kwa Besigye kwali kugenda kuwulizibwa nga 25 Ogwokubiri wiiki ejja. Ekirungi oba ekyava mu gamawulire amalungi ate ne olunaku ne lukyusiddwa ne baluteeka nga 19 Ogwokubiri olunaku lw'eggulo. Naye ate mu kuwuliriza omusango omulamuzi eyabadde yatudde mu musango n'alaba oba n'akizuula nti Besigye talabika bulungi, embeera ye si nnungi nnyo oba talina maanyi, era n'asalawo nti addizibweyo mangu mukomera ayinza okuzirikira mu kooti. Nti era beewuunya kooti lwaki okwewuunya kuno teyataddemu okulowooza nti mukomera ayinza okufunirayo obulabe obusingira ddala we yabadde mu kooti, wanga asobola okuzirikira mu kooti nga kyolabye, kale ate mukomera osuubirayo ki? Ekyewuunyisa nti kooti lwaki teyasobodde kulowooza nti omuntu ali mu mbeera bweti mukomera kiyinza okuba ate kibi nnyo, embeera eyinza okuba mbi nnyo okusinga ku gyalabyeko mu kooti omulamuzi. Teera omulamuzi okusinziira ku kyeyalabye nga bammemba oba nga balooya balowooza nti Besigye, Dr. Besigye alina eddembe ng'omuntu ery'okuba nga obulamu bwe buteekebwa ku ntikko, nti kooti kyandisoose okutambulirako, nti eddembe lye oba rights ze, his right to health oba eddembe lye ery'obulamu obulungi, nti era yandibadde eraba nti yeetaaga obujjanjabi mangu ddala. Kooti kyandisoose okuteekako essira oba okuteeka waggulu ku ntiko ku bintu byonna. Era ne beebuuza nti ekitongole ekiramuzi bo tebalina ndowooza yonna oba tebalina kusaasira kwonna ku ddembe ly'obuntu eriri mu ssemateeka ng'obulamu bw'omuntu obuli mu matiga ku kiseera ekyo. Era nti tujjukira Kakwenza Lukera Bashaija kooti gwe yagaana okuwa paasipooti ye asobole okugenda okufuna obujjanjabi ng'amaze okutulugunyizibwa ng'alina okufuna obujjanjabi obw'enjawulo obw'enkizo, naye kooti n'emumma paasipooti ye oba ebiwandiiko bye bimukiriza okutambula, engeri ate nga yali mu mbeera mbi nnyo, yakubibwa n'atulugunyizibwa nga nakyo kirabika bulungi nti omusajja embeera gy'alimu mbi. Era ne tujjukira n'okufa kwa munnaffe oba memba waffe gwe bayita Bob Kasango n'abalala bafiira mu kkomera mu mbeera ezo ze zimu. Ne tujjukira n'okufa okwa omwami Joseph Musaasizi Kifeefe, muganda wa Dr. Besigye, naye yafa nga yakava mu kkomera bakamuwa beyiro ku lw'ensonga bwe zityo. Nti era ne wano juuzi tukyajjukira okufa kwa Honorable Muhammad Sejirinya MP ng'era embeera ze zimu ze yafiiramu asabye okumwemirira agenda wabwera afuna obujjanjabi embeera gy'alimu erabika nti n'omuntu wa bulijjo asobola okukiraba nti omuntu ddala ali bubi naye era kooti zaffe oba abalamuzi baffe n'alaba nti ekyo si kikulu nnyo wabula ekisinga obukulu kumuzaayo mukomera n'atasobola kufuna n'etatunulira n'etasaasira mulamuzi n'atasaasira bulamu bw'omuntu oba okusooka okulwanira obulamu bw'omuntu ebirala biddeko so nga ate kyekintu ekyandibadde ekisooka kye bandibadde basooka okutunulira omuntu yenna alina omutima naye n'oyimirirawo n'ogamba nti ekyo si kikulu asooka addeyo wa mukomera tera kooti mu biseera ebisinga bagezaako nnyo okukozesa okugaana okuwa omuntu oba okukkiriza omuntu okumweyimirira lwa nsonga lw'obufuzi tibyabufuzi bantu bano abasinga batulugunyizibwa bagaanibwa okuweebwa beyiro oba akakalo ka kooti lwa nsonga za bufuzi okuviira ddala ku ngeri abantu gye babasindikako ku remand nti bwe bakuteeka mu kooti kiringa ekiri automatic oba nga teekwa toteekwa okugenda wa mukomera kasita bamala okusomera omusango ababe ba gavumenti ebiseera ebisinga bajja agamba tukyanoonyereza omusango gukyali tukyanoonyereza tetunafuna bujulizi bumala naye ate kooti yo neegendera ku ekyo nti oyo bamutwale mukomera nga bwe bakkiriza oludda oluwaabi oba omuwaabi wa gavumenti okweyongera okunoonyereza okukakasa oba ddala obujulizi bwe balina bumala okuleeta omusango oba okuteeka omusango kwona omuntu kyokka nga ate olwedde bamukute bamuleese ne bamwongere mukomera kyetulowooza nti kiba kintu kibi nnyo okulinyira ddembe ly'omuntu kuba teri muntu yandibadde nga agenda mukomera mu mbeera bwe zityo n'amala ennaku zonna zamalayo obudde bwonna bwe bamalayo ng'ate ne gavumenti bagamba tukyanoonyereza naye lwaki kooti ekyo kyo tekitunuulira ti bannayuganda tulowooza nti eddembe ly'abannayuganda liri mu matiga tera ne constitution oba eddembe ly'obuntu eriri mu ssemateeka ne kooti zaalivuddeko tezigoberera ddembe ly'omuntu oba eddembe ly'omuntu oba rights z'abantu zonna nga bannayuganda oba omunnayuganda eryalambikibwa mu ssemateeka oba mu constitution yaffe era tugamba basaba nti ekitongole ekiramuzi oba esiga eddamuzi bateekwa okumanya nti okulwisaawo omusango oba okuwaayo ensala mu musango okukirwisaawo omuntu era aba taweerebwa bwenkanya mu mateeka kibanga okugaana omuntu obwenkanya mu mateeka era kye bagamba wakyo tugamba nti esiga eddamuzi bandibadde ng'ensonga zino bandibadde nga balaga nti ensonga nga zino nkulu nnyo oba gy'emisango oba z'ensonga ze bandibadde basaako essira okusingira ddala ensonga endala ze banaabeera nazo nti ensonga bwetu bwejja gye balina okusookerako okusaako amaanyi nti yo eri agenti nnyo tesobola kulinda nti tetusobola kuba bantu abalemeddwa oba abatasobola kuyiga ku ebize ebibaawo oba ku history yaffe gye tumanyi nti mbi nnyo ku lw'ebintu ebize ebibaawo tuze tubiraba ne tusirika ate ne tutafunamu kyakuyiga fyonna tuli muntu omu tuli baana ba Katonda era twandibadde nga tussaamu kye bayita obuntu tukola ekyobuntu n'okwagalana nga tugezaako okuweereza bannaffe ffenna tuli bantu tuli muntu omu wadde oli mulamuzi wadde oli looya tewali njawulo ku ffe twandibadde tusaamu tuteekamu ekyobuntu kiri we kinaagaana teekamu obuntu nti era bano okusinziira ku mateeka tugezaako okwefuga obutayagala kwogera nnyo ku nsonga eziri mu kooti ezitanasalwawo kuba kiba kimenya mateeka tinabyo ebyo bigambo byaffe era ekiwandiiko kino kisayiningibwako bannamateeka bamemba baffe omuli Peter Mukidi wa Lubiri, Ivan Bowe, Stephen Kalari, Lilian Edrabo eyakisomera wano mu Lufuutifuuti, Prima Kwagala, Michael Kuwa, Peter Arineitwe, Ronald Samuel Wanda, Mary Goreti Nakamya, Edward Kato Sekabanja, Bernard Banturaki, George Musisi, Sarah Kasande, Anthony Odur, Morgan Muindo, Mike Aboneka, Paul Muchibi, William Muhumuza, Julius Galinsonga, Julius K. Warugaba, Dennis Kusasira, ne Philip Karugaba. Bwe bobaka bannamateeka era be bamemba ba Uganda Law Society aba Radical New Bar abawaliriza obwo obubaka nayinza okumpuliriza bannange.
Questions? No questions. No questions online. I've learned that we don't have any questions online, and I don't see any hands up here. So I'll straight away invite our Vice President to come and take the podium to take on issue number 2. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam CEO. And thank you everyone who is here listening and those online, those who are in attendance, those who are joining us online. I'm here to give our position concerning the status of the political persecution of the President, Uganda Law Society, Isaac Semakade, as you're all aware. And I'll read my statement verbatim and explain. It's titled Restoring Harmony Between the Bar and the Bench. Despite facing political persecution and judicial harassment in his first 5 months in office, the Uganda Law Society President, Isaac Semakade, still remains committed to restoring harmony between the bar and the bench. He has asked me to assure you of his dedication to this cause. The bar and the bench are interconnected and interdependent components of the administration of justice, as outlined in Chapter 8 of our Constitution. Judges and lawyers must work together to ensure justice is served for everyone. The recent 2-year sentence passed against our Radical New Bar president has created a crisis that could have been averted through open and honest discussions between the bar and the bench. We urge the Chief Justice to meet with us without delay to address concerns and grievances to avoid further escalation. This is the call we've been making. We've been trying to ensure that we have harmonious engagements between the bar and the bench. It is not the first time we are calling upon the Chief Justice. We tried this way before the opening of the new lawyer, where we saw the events of the day escalating the situation, where the public has picked the view with concern that there is a serious fight there are serious disagreements between the bar and the bench. The consequences of this in the public, the consequence of the public having this attitude are dire and are very bad. And that is why the president of the Radical New Bar has still insisted, is still committed to ensuring that we have these engagements. That is why we're calling upon the Chief Justice to ensure, to make sure that we have this meeting as soon as possible before things can get out of hand. All lawyers must recognize that the bar and the bench are part of the same legal community, entrusted with the responsibility of promoting constitutional democracy. Respecting the paramount say of freedom of expression is therefore crucial in establishing a clear line of communication to avoid future conflicts. Ebigambo tebita, in English, words do not kill. I say that in Luganda for emphasis. And this is what we've heard from some of the media, proclamations. The judiciary must adopt a democratic and inclusive approach to internal management and bar-bench relations to maintain legitimacy. Let the judiciary top management move away from divisive rhetoric and foster open dialogue. Judicial officers must avoid using the law as a weapon against the bar and its leaders. The Radical New Bar will continue to promote transparency, accountability, and democratic principles in the judiciary. We will pursue appellate litigation to ensure historic elections are held to choose new leaders of the Judicial Service Commission who can work collaboratively with the bar and the bench. As you're aware, I've been planning to hold these elections since last year. We were supposed to hold these elections on the 17th of December. But again, we faced another obstacle where we had court stopping or injuncting the EGM where we're supposed to conduct these elections. One of the roles or one of the reasons the Radical New Bar chose to take this route or this direction was to foster this kind of collaboration between the bar and the bench. But unfortunately, we are still facing hurdles. That's why we're pursuing appellate courts. That's why we're trying to get remedies from the appellate court to ensure that this still happens. That's how much we are committed. That's how much the Radical New Bar is committed to seeing this work. Regular meetings and communication channels will also be established to prevent misunderstandings. Restoring harmony between the bar and the bench requires effort and commitment from both sides. As the Radical New Bar, we are putting in all the efforts. We are showing commitment. We need the same from the bench. The bench should also be committed to restoring this working relationship, which appears broken. It takes more than just accusing each other of trivial things. Since, as members of the bar, as the Radical New Bar, we are intentional about this, we expect the same from the bench. By rebuilding trust and respect and strengthening institutional relationships, we can create more effective and a just legal system. That is what we are calling for. We've had, when we mentioned that we've been committed to this, the President has been committed to this. This is not the first time we are calling for this engagement. This is not the first time the President is coming out and requesting for a meeting between the bar and the bench. Way before the opening of the new lawyer in January, the President was very intentional and wrote to the Chief Justice a letter that was received on the 16th of January, 2025, seeking for a consultative meeting. I want to read that letter in part. It is dated 16th January 2025, addressed to the Honorable Alphonse Chigamonyo Unyidolo, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Uganda. And it reads, Dear Chief Justice, request for a consultative meeting. Greetings from the Council, Management and staff of the Uganda Law Society. I am writing to request an audience with your office before the 26th Annual Judges Conference to discuss important matters of bar-bench relations with a view to salvaging the working relationship between the legal profession and the judiciary of Uganda. For this historic consultation with the Radical New Bar, I will lead a high-level ULS delegation who will meet you to present the hot-button issues for the new lawyer. To conclude any matters of protocol, please do not hesitate to contact my Vice President, Mr. Asime Anthony. Signed by the President, Isaac K. Semakade. This was a letter written to the Chief Justice and received on the 16th. Unfortunately, this meeting didn't take place. We hoped that before the opening of the new lawyer would have had this engagement to discuss the hot button issues, to agree on what should the opening of the new lawyer look like, what are the important issues for the benefit of the public. But unfortunately, because this engagement never took place, never happened, we all saw what happened on the 7th of February during the opening of the new lawyer. It was very absurd, and we have every belief that it led to the escalation of the matters. That's what has brought us where we are. So our final appeal, again, from the President, is that he's still committed to having these relationships made, to have a good working relationship between the bar and the bench for the benefit of the general, the entire country and the beneficiaries of the justice system. So that is our position, and that is the status of the Radical New Bar concerning restoring harmony between the bar and the bench. Thank you very much for listening. You want Uganda? Any questions?
Thank you, Vice President. My name is Judith Kukunda. I work with Uganda Radio Network.
Yes, Judith.
I've had you almost since this year began. The ULS has been calling for meetings with the judiciary, but it seems the judiciary is not listening to your demands. And now, following the warrant of arrest that was issued last Friday against the ULS President, isn't the meeting overtaken by events? Can the meeting solve an existing warrant of arrest? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Judith. Let me first answer that. We believe it's not too late to salvage the situation. The ruling where court ordered for the arrest and decided to sentence the ULS president, our leader, to 2 years, appears or is actually an escalation of the event. We believe if we had had these engagements, it wouldn't have reached this far. And like I said, we're making a final appeal. We still believe we have a chance for the benefit and for the good of the justice sector in the country. We call upon the judiciary, the head of the judiciary, to ensure that we have this engagement. It has not been overtaken by events. Those are the results of the situation. Those are the results of not sitting down to have these engagements. But of course, like I said before, there are so many things happening behind. There are so many demands from the public, from the members. All we are saying is we can have this resolved because matters might get out of our hand. If it escalates further, we cannot know. We might not be in control of what it will lead to or what the results will be. That is why I'm making an appeal that there is still a chance and opportunity to have this. As the Radical New Bar, the President is open to these engagements, the Council is open to these engagements, and the ULS members are open to this engagement to ensure there is harmony. Because there is no other reason that would result into such a sentence that does not point to escalation of that relationship between the bar and the bench. Thank you. Any other? In Uganda? Yes, please. Judith.
Sir, I came in late. I don't know if you had already talked about appealing or filing something like to do with stay of execution of the warrant of arrest or something. I need an update.
Yeah, like I stated, we are pursuing appellate remedies in the appellate courts through our lawyers who are representing the president in courts. I wouldn't want to, discuss the pending matters in court, but just give you an update that through other means we are also pursuing appellate remedies where we feel we shall get a remedy or something to remedy this kind of situation. So to answer your question, yes, we are. Okay. Someone had said Luganda. Okay, I'll try to summarize. Abana ngenda gezaako okufunzaako mu lulimi Oluganda byenva okunyonyola mu Luzungu. Kino kyekiwandiiko kyaffe ng'aba Radical New Bar nga nze nkisayininze Vice President wa Uganda Law Society nga kyogeraku okuzaawo enkolagana ennungi wakati wa ekitongole ekiramuzi ne bannamateeka oba balooya abapulida nti wadde pulezidenti waffe oba omukulembeze Isaac Semakadde aze afuna okutulugunyizibwa mu mbeera eya okukangavulwa nga mu mbeera etali ya bwenkanya lwakuba mukulembeze okuva mu kitongole ekiramuzi nti ye akyali mwesimbu era akyalina obumalirivu okulabika nti wabaawo enkolagana ennungi wakati wa essiga eddamuzi lw'ekitongole ekiramuzi ne kitongole ky'abannamateeka era ansabye okubakakasa n'okubamatiza nti mwesimbu era ayagala okulabika nti enkolagana eno ebaawo nti tulina okumanya nti ekitongole eky'abannamateeka n'essiga eddamuzi w'ekitongole eky'abalamuzi birina okukolaganira wamu byawamu tosobola byawula era ekimu tekisobola kukola nga tewali kirala. Essiga eddamuzi tesobola kukola nga tewali kitongole ky'abannamateeka oba bapulida nga tebaliiwo ne bapulida kiyinza okuba ekizibu okukola nga essiga eddamuzi teririiwo mu mbeera eya okulwanirira obwenkanya obw'enfuga y'amateeka mu ggwanga nga we kirambikiddwa mu constitution yaffe oba mu ssemateeka nti balooya oba bapulida n'abalamuzi bateekeddwa okukola wamu okulabika nti empeereza mu by'amateeka etuuka ku buli muntu, ku buli Munnayuganda oba obwenkanya mu mateeka. Ekibonerezo eky'emyaka 2 kyetwalaba ku Lwokutaano nga kyayisiddwa ku President wa Radical New Bar oba omukulembeze waffe Ssemakadde kireeseewo embeera ey'akatabanguko akandibadde nga tetwandituuse ku mbeera eyo singa waaliwo enjogereziganya wakati wa ebitongole byombi balooya n'essiga eddamuzi nti era tusaba nesekusaba Saabalamuzi Chief Justice okutuwa omukisa okusinkana nga tewali kulwawo kwonna okugezaako okugonjoola ensonga zino oba obutakkaanya buno ng'ensonga kino kijja kuziyiza embeera okweyongerayo okusajjuka okuba embi kubeera gye twolekedde embeera okusajjuka nti balooya bonna tuteekwa okukkiriza nti balooya n'abalamuzi ffenna tuli mu community y'emu mu community emu gye tuyita legal community ng'era tulina obuvunaanyizibwa okulwanirira eddembe ly'abantu n'obwenkanya mu mateeka era okukuuma eddembe eryo omuntu okwogera nga weyandyagadde kintu kikulu nnyo mu kuteekawo enjogera ennungi oba okukwatagana obulungi okugezaako okuggyako endwanagana oba obutakkaanya obwandize mu maaso eyo nti ebigambo era tebita nga munnamawulire omu we yayogera twaliwo puroguramu ey'okumawulire gamba nti ebigambo tebita nti ekitongole bwe beesiga eddamuzi kiteekeddwa okuteekako enkola ey'okuwuliziganya oba n'okukaanya mu mbeera ey'okukwasaganya ensonga eziri wakati wa balooya n'ekitongole ekyo kyennyini okulabika nti nakyo kiteekebwamu ekitiibwa oba kiteekebwamu okukkiriza oba okikiriza nti ddala kikola mirimu gyakyo tusaba ab'obuyinza mu kitongole ekiramuzi bamusiga eddamuzi okuva ku mbeera ey'okusika omuguwa okukkiriza embeera ey'okwogeraganya nti abalamuzi bateekeddwa okulekeraawo okukozesa amateeka ng'ekyokulwanyisa nga bwe twalabye nga pulezidenti waffe omulamuzi ayita mu mateeka okuyisa ekibonerezo eky'emyaka 2 nti ffe nga Radical New Bar tujja kugenda mu maaso nga tulwanirira n'okwogerera obwenkanya okuggyawo embeera ey'obuli bw'enguzi n'okuyitira mu mitendera emituufu okukola ensonga ng'oyise mu mitendera emituufu mu kitongole ekiramuzi era tujja kugenda mu maaso nga tusaba oba nga tuyitira mu kooti ezawaggulu ezeyongerwayo kye tuyita appellate court okulabika nti obululu oba okulonda kwe twalina okukola nga bannamateeka okufuna abantu abatukiikirira ku kitongole ekya Judicial Service Commission nga be basobola okutuyambako okuleetawo enkolagana wakati okuba nga olutindo wakati wa balooya n'ekitongole ekiramuzi nti era ne meeting ez'enjawulo zijja kuteekebwawo okulabika nti tujjawo buno obutakkaanya ensonga zisobole okukolebwako nga tetunatuuka ku mbeera enzibu ennyo era okuzzaawo obwenkanya wakati wa bannamateeka oba balooya n'abalamuzi oba n'ekitongole ekiramuzi kyetaaga okuteekebwamu amaanyi oba n'obwagazi ku njuyi zombi nga tuzaawo ekyokwesaamu ekitiibwa okwesigangana okulabika nti bino ebitongole bisobola okukolagana wamu oba okukolera wamu nti kyekyetaaga okukolebwa ogezaako okukola sisitimu y'amateeka oba enkola y'amateeka esobola okuyamba omuntu wa bulijjo oba okuba nga esobola okuweereza mu ngeri gy'eteekeddwa okuweerezaamu. So mu bufunzefunze kyekyo ekiwandiiko kyaffe ekikoleddwa olwaleero nga 2 nga kisayiningiddwa nze mwennyini Vice President. In Luganda? Okay. Nga wennyonnyodde nti tuze tusaba oba tuze nga tuli beeteefuteefu okugyawo embeera eno twakitandikako dda nga ebintu tebinatuuka ku webiri saawa eno nga bwe tubiraba nti era ffe tetunakivaako nti wabula okuwabula kwetuwa oba omulanga gwe tukuba nti bwe kinaaba nga tekikoleddwako mu bwangu ddala nga ekitongole ekiramuzi tebakitaddeeko sira oba amaanyi okulabika nti kibaawo embeera ekyayinza okusajjuka okusingira ddala wano weeri ate embeera eyo enasajjuka eyinza okutuuka ku we tujja okulemererwa ffenna tugamba nti obudde tebunagenda nnyo wadde ekituuse wano wakyaliwo omukisa ogusobola okutereeza ensonga nga tezinasuka we ziri kuolwedde muzirawo we ziri nti si walungi naye ate tulowooza nti solution oba eddagala lya kino kwe kulabika nti tutuula mangu mu bwangu ddala ne tujjawo obwo obutakanya oba obuzibu obwo obuleeta embeera eyo okusajjuka. So mu bufunze obudde tebunagenda nnyo tukyasobola okutaasa si nti amata gayiise mu mutaka tosobola gayoola nti wekiri tukyasobola okutaasaako kyetulina embeera nedda mu nteeko nga weyandisaanidde era kwe kusaba kwe tukola ffe nga Radical New Boba nga bannamateeka kyekyo kye twagala okulaba tetwagala kulaba okusika omugooko kuliwo tate eyo ye solution oba okutuula mu bwangu ddala kyekigenda okuleetawo okuza embeera mu buteeko okulabika nti twogera n'amazima nga twesiganga n'ensonga zaffe ne tuziteeka ku meeza ffenna ne tusobola okugyawo eno embeera gye tulimu etayamba muntu wa bulijjo eyandibadde nga aganyuddwa mu kitongole oba mu nfuga y'amateeka mu ggwanga oba mu bitongole byombi mu kitongole ekiramuzi ne mu kitongole ky'abannamateeka. Ndowooza ebyo maybe ebibuuzo bibiri oba tawandiikirako esiga eddamuzi. Ndowooza nayiseemu wano tingana mu January oba mu mwezi ogw'olubereberye nga tetunatuuka ne ku opening of the new lawyer twawandiika president waffe yawandiika nawandiikira Saabalamuzi ebbaluwa yafuniddwa mu ofiisi eyo nga 16 January ng'esaba olukiiko wakati wa ffe balooya abakulembeze nga kanso nga president yabakulembeddemu ne Saabalamuzi ng'omulamwa gwa meeting eyo kwe okumenya empenda oba okwogera ku bintu ebiriko obuzibu nga tetunatuuka ku lunaku olwo olwa opening of the new lawyer. Tera wadde obubaka bwatuuka olukiiko olwo terwasobola kubaawo tetwafuna mukisa kyetolooza nti oba oliawo singa kyakolebwa singa twatuula mu olwo olukiiko tetwandibadde nga tutuuka ne ku kyetwatuukako ku lunaku olwo nga 7 ogwokubiri opening of the new lawyer oba n'okutuukira ddala we tuli kati kuba tulaba nti embeera yeeyongere nti waliwo oludda olw'obusungu nti obusungu obwo buva mu butakkaanya byebintu ebyo byolaba nti oli bamukalize bamusibye emyaka 2 ye mukulembeze w'abannamateeka nti kati katulabe kye munaakola so nga ate tulowooza nti ekyo tekiyamba muntu wa bulijjo omuwi w'omusolo alina okufuna obuweereza mu kooti alina okufuna obuweereza mu bitongole ebyo talina kyafunamu ng'omuntu so twagezaako ate tukyali beesimbu pulezidenti antumye okubanyonyola nti ye akyali mwesimbu tanava ku mulamwa akyalina endowooza nti ekyo kikyasobola okukolebwa naye ate ffe nga Radical New Bar kyetunyonyola nti bwe batakiseemu amaanyi ne tufuna meeting eyo b'olukiiko olwo lunajjawo olunaatusobozesa okwogera ku nsonga ezo ezitawaanya obutakkaanya obuliwo embeera ate eyinza okutusajjukako neetuyita mu ngalo neetuuka we tutagisobolere ekibuuzo ekyokubiri obuuziza ku ekyokujulira nti okuyita mu bamateeka kosti kibonerezo baakiwa pulezidenti waffe saawa eno nga treasurer wabagambye tali mu ggwanga ali mu mirimu emitongole kyagenda okujja ng'olredi ali ku mirimu emitongole ejja Uganda Law Society akiikirira bannamateeka mu nsi ez'ebweru mu conference ez'enjawulo Kigali n'ensi endala zalina okugendamu era okuyita mu bannamateeka oba bamuwolereza of course ffe tugoberera amateeka tussaamu koti tuzisaamu ekitiibwa nti tulina okukola amateeka kyegalagira era ensonga ezo bannamateeka bye bazikolako sikkirizibwa kuzikomentingako oba okunyonyola ennyo ekiri mu kooti ekigenda mu maaso nti naye eryo ekkubo nalyo twakoze eki twali kutte okugezaako okufuna obwenkanya tusuubira nti tujja kufuna obwenkanya mu kooti eyeyongerako. Is that all?
This has come to the end of today's event. We thank all the listeners who came in to listen. Thank you. Have a blessed day.